All right, guys, welcome to book club number 3 on Musashi, the Book of Five Rings. So, if this is your first time here, welcome. Check out the link below. There should be a link to the Modern Twofold Way. That is a set of daily, I call them our daily non-negotiables. Every day you work out, every day you meditate, and this look work out for an hour, meditate for 10 minutes. Like if you're new to meditating, 10, 12 minutes like feel like a long time, but that's the amount of time that it takes to start to feel the effects from it, start to notice looking at life a little bit differently, wider perspective. You start to become more aware of your thoughts, all that stuff. So, and then read and write. So part of this class here is just reviewing books. So we always have a book going, and it's about 10 pages a day. So some of these books are going to last a long time, but there's other books that you can read while this is going on, things like that. So thanks for being here and checking it out. You can join to get on the live calls. There should be a link below as well. So just join the Facebook group and we'll put you in there. So last time we were at I got into a part here where it was the guard without a guard. Look, I only have 30 minutes. So I have another call, business call after this in 30 minutes. So I'll try and just pull out some of my favorite parts. So we were on Scroll of Water. Cool. And now we're on Scroll of Fire. Actually, Scroll of Fire is one of the best ones, if you can imagine. Fire for a warrior has got to be cool and interesting. So, in training to strike your adversary a mortal blow, you cannot even think of a small and feeble techniques, right? So if you're trying to accomplish something, analyzing, thinking, judging is not going to work, basically. So when you're training, you have to, like, mortal blows, powerful blows are not going to be something you think about. It's probably going to be something that is just pure reaction, right? The way of my strategy again is to know with certainty the principle Michi, that makes it possible to be victorious alone against 5 or against 10 opponents when your life is at risk. In single combat, you probe the tactics of each of your opponents. You try to be aware of the strength and weakness of their techniques. In this way, you will understand how to win against any person, thanks to the wisdom of strategy. Train from morning till night. When in this manner you have finished polishing, you will spontaneously acquire freedom and excellent ability. In this way, you'll be able to gain access to supernatural power. This is the vital essence of the practice of the method of the art of war. Man, once you get to a point where you're doing these same moves over and over, it's almost like you widen your perspective because you've been there so many times. It's almost out of body, right? Regarding the place of combat, place yourself in the light behind you. So in battle, you want to put the sunlight behind you. So the lights in your opponent's eye. You should try to situate yourself on higher ground, however slightly. This is what's called looking at your opponents from above. So this is really cool. So this is Musashi's three ways of taking initiative. Shin or Sen, Sen. The first consists of attacking before your opponent. I call this attacking before your opponent. Kin no Shin. The second consists in taking the initiative when your opponent attacks first. I call it taking the initiative at the time of an attack. So Tai no Shin. So it's when they attack, you respond. The third consists in taking the initiative when the two adversaries are getting ready to attack each other. I call it the initiative at the time of reciprocal attack. Tai Tai no Shin. Taking the initiative is essential for strategy. There are details to be mastered in relation to taking the initiative, but it is pointless to describe them because it is no matter It is a matter of winning through the wisdom of your own strategy by discerning the intentions of your opponent and choosing the way of taking the initiative that is appropriate to each moment. Attack before your opponent does. Ken no shin. When you want to attack, you remain calm at the beginning. Then you take the initiative of attacking all of a sudden. Maintain a mental disposition that is very strong. Move your feet somewhat before more quickly than usual. As soon as you near your opponent, take the initiative by acting very fast. Although the combat preserves an untroubled mind. All through the combat, preserve an untroubled mind with the sole idea of crushing your opponent. In this way, you will gain a victory with a mind that is strong to its depth. All these examples are ways of taking the initiative by attacking before your opponent does. Second, taking the initiative at the time attack. Tai no shin. So this is a little deeper explanation of each one. So we're gonna move on though. These are good. I wish part of me wants to do like YouTube videos on all this stuff. So holding down the headrest. In the combat strategy, it's harmful to allow yourself to be led by your opponent and place yourself on the defensive. It is necessary at all costs to work to lead your opponent in accordance with your will. What I mean to say by holding down the headrest is different. If you're fighting as one having arrived at the true way, Michi, you can perceive the will of your opponent before he makes a move. If he intends to strike, you grasp the first letters of strike, S-T or I, and you do not allow him to complete his striking movement. That is the sense of holding down the headrest. For example, when your opponent means to attack, you grasp the letters ATT and attack. In attack. So, okay, so he's using the letters as a reference to like before you finish the word, you're just getting ATT at attack. When he means to jump, you take hold of the JU and jump. When he means to slash, you seize the SLA and slash. All these have the same sense. In the course of combat, you allow him to do useless things while preventing him from doing anything effective. This is essential in strategy. Working to prevent each movement for your opponent tries to make is following his initiative. The essential is for you to exercise in all the techniques followed by the way correctly and in this manner, you will come to the point where you can foresee the will of your opponent and prevent him from actualizing it by rendering all of his movements ineffective. Dominating your opponent in this manner proves that you are true adept. You are a true adept who has spent long years in training. Realizing the situation. In group strategy, it is necessary to recognize the moments when your opponents are at high point and when they are at a low point, to know their numbers and their intentions, to take into account the conditions of the place and to discern their situation clearly, knowing how to take the initiative. In individual strategy, you must have knowledge concerning your opponent's school, discern his personality and find his strength and his weaknesses. Use tactics that thwart his intentions. And it is important to seize the initiative of attack by perceiving the rise and fall of your opponent's combativeness and by knowing well the cadences of his intervals. In individual strategy, if you strike by responding after each of your opponent's attacks, the combat will stagnate and become a repetition of the same cadences. Crush with your body, with your mind, and also, of course, with your sword. Recognizing the instance of collapse. A house, a person, an adversary collapses over the course of time following coordinates in cadence. If you let them have a breather when they're about to collapse, you will give them the chance to recoup their forces. Drive him back with a direct and powerful mind and strike him in a way that makes the blow carry a long way. so that he will not be able to recover. You must understand well this strike that causes the blow to carry a long way. If you do not put some distance between you and your opponent, the strike is difficult to execute. Here's what I call becoming your opponent. Okay, I skipped over that. Right here, he expresses the empty mind, which is ku mind. Moving your shadow. This is to be applied when you are unable to discern what is in the mind of your opponent. Pretend to attack forcefully, and you will discover their tactic. Feint an attack, and his mind will then be reflected in the movement of his sword. Having unveiled his state of mind, you will employ an effective means against him, and you will surely win. When you see that, your adversary intends to act. So constricting the shadow is when you see that your adversary intends to act. If you show forcefully that you are constricting the effective means used by your adversaries, they will change their tactic because they will be constricted by your strength. At this moment, you change your own tactic and gain the victory by taking the initiative of the attack with empty mind. Empty mind means you're not thinking, you're not analyzing, you're more in the body. You're just reacting. That's why in jujitsu, in martial arts, and in sports, it's important for your body to know it more than your mind, right? So you it's muscle memory. You feel someone move a certain way, you know exactly how to react. In his some of his duels, he was really good at irritating his adversary. So there's a little part on this. But he would do it. That's what he did. That's why he showed up late, to just kind of piss him off, right? It's important to know how to irritate your adversaries. Launching a violent assault at a place your adversaries have not thought of before their mind has a chance to stabilize. Take the initiative of attack and making the best of this advantage. Coat your opponent in such a way that it is impossible to distinguish yourself from the other. If you wound a corner of if you wound a corner of your opponent's body, this will weaken him. If you wound a corner, however slightly, he will begin to crumble. It is then easy to win. Ripping out the bottom, right? Abruptly renew your mind and better him until his mind has been broken and he feels completely defeated. You rip out the bottom of his resistance with your sword, with your body, but also with your mind. As long as in depth he maintains his mind, it is difficult to bring him to collapse. Renewing yourself. If at the time of combat you feel yourself entangled with your opponent and the fight is stagnating, you throw off your preceding situations and renew your thoughts as though you were doing everything for the first time. In this way, you employ a new cadence to achieve victory. Just like that. It's that easy, huh? Just be like, oh, renew mind. Let's go. As soon as you feel a grating indecisiveness in your contact with your opponent, immediately renew your mind so that you can make use of a completely different opening in order to win. In group strategy as well, it is important to know how to renew yourself. All right, this one, I remember this one being pretty cool, but let's see if we can get it. So a mouse's head and a bull's neck. In this situation, you would always keep in mind that the way of strategy is like a mouse's head and a bull's neck. And while you're fighting with small techniques, all of a sudden will enlarge your mind and transform those small techniques into big ones. This is an integral part of strategic thought. It is important for a warrior to think every day that a person's mind is like a mouse's head and a bull's neck. Body of a rock. The details would be given orally. That was just a highlight, so sometimes a lot of the stuff can only be given orally. I have devoted myself to the way of strategy since my youth. I've exhausted the knowledge of the hand and body in all the techniques of the sword, and my thought was passed through several sages. I think it is possible to develop a certain skill of body and a certain finesse of mind by learning these techniques, but all this training becomes for the way a source of faults. The scroll of wind. You cannot know with certainty the way of your own school without knowing the way of others. Know others to understand yourself. I like that. In here, he's kind of talking about using the sword. He says, schools that use the sword with brute force. If you strike with the intention of producing force, your sword technique will be crude, and it is difficult to achieve victory with crude technique. If you try hard to cut through a human body using force, you will not succeed. If you try to cut through various objects, you will see that it is bad to strike with force. In practicing the sword with brute force, if you sap the other's sword forcibly in making parry, a force will spill over, and that is always bad. There's a right here, he says, if you watch The Mandalorian, there's literally one little sentence that says, "This is the way." I'll read what's before that. To the extent in which it is possible, you must repulse your opponent by getting them to jump about and become disconcerted, while you yourself keep straight with power in order to obtain the victory with certainty. This is the way. So disrupting your opponent is the way. In the strategy of my school, keep your body and mind straight and make your opponent go through contortions and twist about. The essence is to defeat him in the moment when, in his mind, he is pivoting and twisting. You should examine this well. This is one of my favorites. So guard position, the guard or guard position involves having recourse to immobility, right? So guard in general is kind of like I'm prepared, but we're not really attacking. And so attacking from this guard position is basically guard without a guard, right? In the way of strategic combat, you shake your other's guard and employ techniques he is not thinking of. You get him to panic, to become irritated and frightened, and you defeat him by becoming aware of the cadence in accordance with which he is getting lost in the situation of combat. In this practice, it is bad to take up a guard position, which is waiting upon the other's initiative. It is in this sense that I insist in my school on the guard without a guard. That is to say, even if there is a guard, it is not a rigid guard. Between the two situations, that in which your adversary has seized initiative of attack, that in which you have taken the initiative, the disadvantage and the advantage vary from single to double. I really love this guard without a guard. Generally in strategy, you place your gaze on the mind of your opponent. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about how you view. And when it comes to, like, what do you look at? Do people look at the hips? Do you look at the eyes? Do you look at this? I personally, it's like you're using peripherals, really, because there's so many things to be aware of. And if you get too focused on one thing, you're going to get hit by something else. So it's more like you kind of live in the peripherals, if you ask me. In my strategy, the way of moving is no different from normal walking on a road. You move rapidly and calmly in accordance with your opponent's cadence. Speed is not part of the true way of strategy. When you say fast, this means a lag has occurred in the relation to the cadence of things. That is what is meant by fast or slow. In whatever the domain, the movements of a good, accomplished practitioner do not appear fast. For example, there are messengers who cover 40 or 50 leagues at the run in a single day. but they do not run fast from morning till night. Whereas a beginner cannot cover such a long distance, even if he has the wind to run the whole day. Old Pine, Oi Matsu, which is a slow melody. A beginner has the feeling of lagging behind. Sorry. Speed is the beginning of a fall because it produces a deviation in cadence. Of course, excessive slowness is also bad. The movements of a good, accomplished practitioner look slow, but there is no dead space between his movements. Love that. Man, that was quick. If your adversaries act too fast, you apply the opposite approach. You calm yourself and avoid imitating them. You must train yourself well in developing the state of mind, right? Calm, cool, steady forward. Oh, look, I'm at the end. Here we go. Oh yeah, we're good. We got through this. Okay. In my school, there is neither depth for entry for the art of the sword, and there is no fixed guard positions. The scroll of heaven. The meaning of emptiness is space where there is nothing, and it also envisage emptiness. Envisage. I also envisage emptiness as that which cannot be known. Emptiness, of course, is where there is nothing. Knowing that which does not exist while knowing that which exists, that is emptiness. In this world, some people think of emptiness in an erroneous fashion, interpreting it as not distinguishing anything. This is the product of a mind gone astray. It is not true emptiness. In addition, for the way of strategy, emptiness does not mean disregarding the law in order to practice the way of the warrior. Know this state of mind and take as fundamental that which is straight. Conceive of the way with a sincere mind, practice strategy and broadly. Think on a large scale with accuracy and clarity. Think of void as the way and see the way as void. In emptiness, the good exists and the evil does not. Knowing exists, the principle exists, the way exists, and the mind is void. All right, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. The next book, I think it's gonna be Influence. It's gonna be a good one. So make sure you guys tune in. And once again, check the links below to join the Facebook. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. And we'll see you next time. Namaste.